This show changes so much about the Titans, often at a fundamental level, that it's really only these characters in name only. In fact, while I was watching the first 3 episodes of the show, I wondered what drew Akiva Goldsman, Jeff Johns, and Greg Berlanti to adapt this comic, since apparently none of it actually inspired them and they felt was worth bringing over to the DC streaming show. But, and there's a but here, I know, I was shocked too. But if you can get past that, and I was able to, you wouldn't think that you would, but I think because it is actually a somewhat engaging superhero television show that thankfully skews more Marvel Netflix than CW, and this time from DC, you know, again, as I said, I was able to get past the fundamental changes that were made. And I would even go so far as to say that even if I wasn't going to review the whole first season, which I will, it's going to take a long time because this thing's going to wrap up in December because it airs weekly. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I would still continue to watch it past the first 3 episodes that were given to us. I wouldn't say it was a strong hook, but I'm interested. Now, I think it's a huge mistake to air this show weekly instead of making it available for binging, and that's for 2 reasons. The first is that, oddly, the second episode, well, there's a lot about this that's odd, but the second episode is a weird detour that focuses largely on Hawk and Dove, with Starfire and Beast Boy not even showing up that episode. Like, if this is about getting the team together, you know, why would you prolong that any longer than necessary, right? Beast Boy, by the way, is who he might be comics accurate, in fact, but I can't tell because he's hardly in the first 3 episodes at all. In fact, he only has 2 scenes. He nails them, though. We'll talk about Beast Boy when we go through the characters individually. So with the show only airing weekly, I can see some people checking out with the second episode and not making it to the much better episode 3. Although, if you paid for DC streaming, you might be like, damn, I paid for this, I bet. Well, you know, some people have like a monthly renewable plan. I bit the bullet and paid for the annual. So, you know, that's another thing that they should be concerned about, making sure people renew. And I think that episode 2 just slows things down too much. Then the second reason that I think this should be binged is that when you have weekly shows like, say, Gotham, right, there are tons of comic book cameos and references each episode to really energize the audience, right? But Titans is much more of a slow burn. It's not chock full of references. And I think, again, as I said, the game is more, what did they change? So I can't see it generating water cooler talk episode by episode. I think people will be more interested in talking about it as a whole, a season as a whole. Because, you know, it's weird to think having to check back in every week. As a member of the press, I was able to binge the first 3, and that was a favorable experience. Now, to the cast's credit, they all look great. Like, wow, what a photogenic cast. But they're also charismatic, right? And I have to say, at the very least, solid actors. I think they might even be good actors. And that does a lot to make the show enjoyable and engaging, despite how much they've changed. All right, so let's start out with Robin. Now, it was frustrating to me because Dick Grayson has never been violent, right? And he's never been this angry. Dick Grayson in the comics is known for being a performer and a show-off, and none of those qualities are spotlighted here. It also makes no sense that someone his age would be a police detective already instead of a rookie, a beat cop, you know, as he was in the comics. But there are moments with Bretton Thwaites where he lightens up or softens up, right? And you can see shades of Dick Grayson. Also, his protectiveness of orphaned or endangered kids, considering his own background, is a nice touch. You know, like pay it forward, what Bruce did for him. So I thought that was nice. Also, speaking of Bruce Wayne, in episode 3, here's another reason for you to stick it out. There are a number of flashbacks, and they have the best Wayne Manor I've ever seen in live action. Usually they're like, welcome to Wayne Manor, and you're like, that only looks like a moderate hotel. This Wayne Manor looks like really lush and posh, and like it actually looked like a house Bruce Wayne would live in. I was impressed. And you do get glimpses of Bruce Wayne, but not his face. And there was one super creepy moment, like they don't want him to talk, so he like leaves Dick a note, and Dick's like, oh, it's like Dick Grayson, and he reads it, and then they pull out, and Bruce is standing in the doorway, and you're like, that's really weird. I think Child Services might want to rethink this living arrangement. Like, just talk to him. So that was weird. Although I guess Bruce is a little bit weird when you think about it. Okay. Also, I have to say there was a moment in episode 3 when young Dick Grayson is supposed to show off his acrobatics, right? And so he's like jumps into a tree and flips all around. And it was the worst VFX I've seen in quite some time. Like, I would be like, we obviously can't do that scene or that shot. But I will say that as a tiger, Beast Boy is convincing enough. I'm not like, wow, is that a real tiger? But I wasn't like, oh, you took me out of the show. I was like, oh, cool, he's a tiger. I don't know why you would change into that animal for the task that we see him doing. It made absolutely no sense. I'd be like, well, it was basically breaking and entering. I was like, monkey, obviously. But I guess, I don't know why they made that choice. We'll see. Again, we don't get that much Beast Boy. Also, side note, the show takes place in Detroit, not Bloodhaven, or Bloodhaven for Dick Grayson's comic book history, right? Or New York, or San Francisco, or any of the cities that the Titans have actually been located in the comics. For some reason, again, they put it in Detroit, and the only thing I can think of is that's because that's where Jeff Johns is from. And I think that Jeff Johns should stop injecting himself into everything that he does for DC. And it's awkward to see a mostly non-black cast be located in a historically black city and see Dick working in a police department that's mostly black. Although the only person he seems to strike up a relationship with is the only other white person who works there. And you're like, why doesn't this occur to anyone? All right, now as for Starfire, who's called Corey Anders here, there's no talk about Starfire, doesn't come up in any way so far. Her character is changed the most. Like, it's not Starfire. For her power set, for instance, she just shoots hellfire, like really hot, intense flames. No green blasts. It doesn't seem like alien energy at all. That actually set up like a difference between her and Raven. Like Raven is darkness and Starfire is light, but not like light, like fire. So she seemed kind of hellish in her power set, quite frankly. Although they are implying some kind of connection between the two of them, so maybe there is a connection? I don't know. We'll have to keep watching. But what's really weird is they basically made her a Luke Cage Shaft type figure, complete, not just with like the getup that she has, but they give her like that kind of car and the music choices that play in her scenes. And they use Donna Summer again. They must be really pushing that song on the music scene, in terms of affordable royalties, right? And she is the exact opposite of Starfire's trademark qualities. She's not innocent, she's not naive, and she's not upbeat. I think the Luke Cage Shaft comparison is very apt. And she makes for a good one, by the way. A good female version of that kind of character. There's a blaxploitation quality to it, which I'm sure Goldsman, Johns, and Berlanti think is very clever, but not with this character. It doesn't work. It's not Starfire. It's not Starfire. But Anna Diop, though, I have to say, does a great job playing whoever this is. And she looks absolutely gorgeous, stunning. And on another side note, there's so much colorism in Hollywood these days. Look who they just cast in Birds of Prey as Black Canary, right, over Janelle Monáe. One of you pointed that out. I thought that was very good observation. So it's great to see here a dark-skinned actress not only get such a large role, but that of the sexy femme fatale. And Anna Diop fills it to a T. Although it is weird that she refuses to change out of her hooker outfit, right? She wore it for the 2 episodes that I saw her in, and it's revealed to be some sort of undercover getup, but for what she doesn't know, because she has amnesia. So that's another weird loop as well. You're like, Starfire never had amnesia in the comics? What's happening? All right, so Tegan Croft also looks gorgeous, very pretty, and she's very convincing in what's been basically turned into an Exorcist-type storyline, complete with going to see nuns at a convent and a whole bunch of like crosses and religious symbols, all that jazz, right? All that Exorcist jazz. But the problem is that no matter how good a job Tegan Croft does, she's simply miscast as Raven. You're like, that's great and all, and that was fun to watch, but you're not Raven. Like, we all know these characters so well, and so we can immediately tell if that's who we're seeing, and I think it doesn't ring true with any of them, except potentially, again, Beast Boy. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of him sooner rather than later. I mean, maybe they don't want to pay to see him transform into an animal too much, but I think that Ryan Potter, he makes a very strong impression in the scenes that he does have, not just, again, because he's comics accurate, but his character seems like he'll bring a lot of fun to the show, which, of course, Beast Boy has historically done for the team. So overall, I think the Titans could be, and I wish that it was, more distinguishable from all the other comic book shows that are popping up on the small screen these days. I mean, if they keep having a sameness about them, they're going to be indistinguishable to the majority of viewers. Again, what makes this, I think, the most interesting is that it's a Marvel Netflix level quality show, not Daredevil, but up there, and it's from DC though. So it's the first to get there. It's the first at bat. So I think that helps it as well, because it's fun to see that application to the DC characters. But it's not the characters, it's not the iconic characters that we want. And even though I did enjoy what I was watching, it was a little frustrating to think that these characters would not get a second chance at live action anytime soon, because they'd already been wasted here in name only. I am curious though to see where the show goes, and I do think that it would be worth picking up, especially if you're a DC fan, but probably down the line when you can get the whole season at once and binge it. But if you want to watch it week to week, again, I don't see, unless something extraordinary happens on a weekly episode, I don't see myself reviewing it again until the end of the season. But you can catch it beginning Friday, October 12th on DC's streaming service. How many of you are subscribed? Also, it'll play on Netflix everywhere else in the world, so you guys don't have to pay for another streaming service, but I'm not quite sure when it starts in other countries. If you're aware of the start date in your own country, please share it down below. So that's my review. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.